Welcome back to Halliday's podcast. Today we're recording episode 23 with a guest operating right at the heart of one of the world's most strategically vital waterways. Longtime friend of the podcast, Danial Kaabi, is CEO of Sea Horizon Offshore Marine Services, a Qatar-based family-rooted company with nearly 5 decades of experience in offshore support. They specialized in vessel ownership and chartering, towage and rig moves, jack-up accommodation barges, ship management, and tailored advisory services for the offshore oil and gas sector across the Gulf. Right now, the region is navigating intense geopolitical pressure from the ongoing US, Israel, and Iran conflict, with major disruptions around the Strait of Hormuz that are reshaping the shipping industry. We're talking routes, insurance, energy flows, and operational risk. Danial is going to walk us through how Sea Horizon has adapted its strategy in real time, what these tensions mean for regional and global maritime shipping, the longer-term outlook for the Gulf, and how artificial intelligence is starting to transform the marine services industry. Danial, we are very grateful to have you with us today. I appreciate how busy you are, and so thank you for making the time. How are things in the beautiful Doha?
First of all, never too busy for you. Always great to catch up with you and have these kind of conversations. It's been a while since we met. Last time in Doha, I think last year. Doha's good. Quiet currently because it is summertime. So a lot of people have left for school holidays. At the time of this recording, we are currently at another regional suspension of actions. So let's see how long this time it lasts. But which is why the last couple of days have been good. I know Qatar just restarted maritime activity, which was suspended for a couple of weeks, given the last 12 days where the conflict kind of restarted again between Israel, Iran, and America.
Yeah, it's changing on a daily basis, obviously, so it's actually quite difficult to prep for such a podcast. But why don't we, for listeners who may not know Sea Horizon Offshore Marine Services, can you give us an overview of your company and the role you play in the Gulf's offshore oil and gas support ecosystem?
Of course. Sea Horizon Offshore Marine Services is a kind of an offshoot of a third generation family business. So into this industry, my grandfather started, ironically, during the Iran-Iraq War. He started entering the business for salvage and emergency response. Then when my father took over, he went into vessel ownership, whether it was tugboats or supply boats to support the oil and gas sector. In about 2017, I came into the business, and in 2022, I actually opened Sea Horizon Offshore Marine Services. So as much as it is a family-run business, it's kind of an offshoot of the legacy that the family had previously. We decided to headquarter this company in Qatar because I saw that Qatar is what the entire future for energy holds, right? A lot of countries in the region are focusing on oil, but Qatar is looked at the next LNG power producer in the world. They will be the number one LNG producers in the world and exporters. So I saw a great opportunity. I think what we offer as Sea Horizon Offshore Marine Services, whether it's partnership from international companies that want to enter the region, whether it's providing unique assets and full local strategies for the energy sector, what we have here is a great advantage. And when I saw Qatar as an opportunity, I said that this is something that will be good. Thankfully, in 4 years, we have been very lucky and blessed. I'm extremely thankful that we have succeeded now on 2 long-term contracts supporting Qatar Energy. One is a 24-year contract that will be supporting Ras Laffan port with the berthing of all the LNG carriers. And another one is a 17-year contract with Halul Island, which is an island that stores LNG outside of Doha, and they are for the international companies, the vessels that are not owned by Qatar Energy. Those tankers come into Halul Island, fuel up, and go on with the trade. So we will be towing these tankers into Halul Island and Ras Al.
In terms of your day to day, how would you characterize the broader marine services and offshore support industry in the Gulf right now?
What's interesting is actually before this conflict, we would always joke about the marine industry and the energy industry that no 2 days are the same. That's why it's exciting to be here. But now, no 2 minutes are the same, right? Like it's very different. Planning doesn't exist, reacting does, right? We don't, whatever you plan. There's a funny quote that back in the day, it's like everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Well,
Yeah.
there's many opportunities to get punched in the face in this today's climate, right? It's more reactive, to say the least, for lack of a better word, right? We're constantly reacting. Now, of course, given the fact that this conflict started in February of this year, we've had enough experience to know what we could possibly react to. But every day it's a new thing. As of right now, it's calm. But we all know, and I think everyone at home has become enough of a energy and war consultant to
Yeah.
know that this may not be the end because there's always something. I was actually reading something before we got on this call about how the Iranian Foreign Ministry had said that US will only stop when the energy prices go up. And that's when they hold back on the attacks, which I found was very interesting. And for the past 3 months, we actually have seen that up and down. So yeah.
Mm. Can you take us back to February and where you were, what you were doing at the time when the war broke out, and were you sort of more aware that something was about to break?
I mean, ironically, I mean, I've been following this. I mean, even I think when we were last together, we were having this conversation. It's not a secret or a surprise that the tension between the three countries was ongoing for the past however long. It's. I remember back then, everyone it was like waiting for your favorite, well, not your favorite, but waiting for a movie to come in the cinema because you're every Friday they're like, okay, they will only attack on the weekend. So every weekend you're like, okay, they haven't attacked. We're okay. And that was leading up. So I was actually in Dubai. It was Ramadan because my family is there. And I was flying to Doha that Friday night uh, for a gathering here in Doha. And I had told the friends of mine here, I said, I'm not going to come. And they said, why? I'm like, listen, I've been following this. And I don't think it's going to be good. And what actually really made it worrying for me is when the foreign minister of Oman flew to Washington and it was in the middle of negotiations. And I found it personally alarming that the negotiations are happening in Oman. Everything is good. But for a foreign minister of this region to go to Washington to go on live TV and say we are so close to a deal. The deal is even better than the Obama deal. I was quite concerned, and I did not. And I've been, leading up the family to this because I know throughout this whole time, the 4, 5, 6 months, that there was rumors or build up that there would be an attack. Iran always said that we will target the rest of the region. So it wasn't a surprise. I've seen a video of Trump say we were shocked that that the region was impacted. Now, of course, it's not a good thing or anything because the region has been heavily impacted. But I remember telling my wife the night before, I said, listen, we have to be careful because I don't know what the outcome will be. And when I was at the gym the next morning, I was seeing pictures of the evening gathering for iftar, and everyone said I missed out, and I did. And then I looked up and I saw a couple of shocked faces at the gym because I guess they were reading the news. And I opened my Instagram because that's where we get news today. And I saw that there was an attack on Iran. And I actually at first thought that it was pretty light because it was just one explosion that was being reported, and I'm like, okay, well, this must have been targeted then. And then I realized that right after, because usually the previous times when there was attacks, Iran, 5 hours later, you'd be on CNN and it's like, okay, Iran has sent drones and you're watching. But this time, it relatively, the response happened quickly. And I remember going on a walk on the beach with my wife. And I told her, I said, we need to be careful. And we saw an interception on the beach in Dubai in front of us. And we're like, okay, let's go home. And I remember those 3 days. So I have some friends from America that are expats in Dubai. They came and stayed over at our house. And those 3 days, it was literally sitting in our garden, no sleep, because I live beside the airport in Dubai. So you just see the interceptions above you
Mm,
nonstop. And I mean, in the moment, it's not quite, you don't realize it. Looking back at it, now it's pretty surreal that, you're sitting there having a barbecue outside just because you don't want to be inside because you want to see what's happening. Now, the most difficult part was the children, right? Telling my daughter that it's still Ramadan fireworks 3 months later.
mm.
Um, it's not really working well. But yeah, it's been pretty surreal and intense. And the fact that we're in what, July now, and this is still something, it's I guess we're used to it,
Mm.
but we shouldn't be, in my opinion. So let's see.
And how impressed were you with the authorities throughout the region in both Dubai and Doha in terms of the information that they were providing you as a business owner, the care, etc.?
I think the support that both countries and all countries in the region that have been affected, right, has been incredible. I think for me specifically, UAE and Qatar has been amazing in providing support for business owners and transparency and the information that we provide. We joke about the alerts, but those alerts are pretty helpful, and then to tell you that the alerts are they give you another alert when the situation is more calm. Thank you for cooperating. It's safe. Now that's more of a personal thing, but from a business standpoint, I know that in Qatar specifically, Qatar Development Bank, which is a local organization through QNB, actually supports all the companies that have been affected by this
Mm,
by giving a loan um, for what has been affected. So salaries, rent, your minimum, which has been very supportive and great. And I know hotels have tourism is still important in this part of the world. So they have gotten a lot of support, and it's just very impressive. But we knew this, right? Because we saw during COVID, it was the same thing, right? The UAE, Qatar, the whole region as a whole, during that time of crisis, supported and did everything to support its people, their people, to really make them feel comfortable, make them feel from home. Like if you look at expat life in both these countries, right? It's majority expats. So I describe it like a university, right? You're basically doing your university run and then you go back home during the summer, which is what everyone does. But this region really does a great job at making you feel like you're one of us, like this is your home,
mm,
right? And it goes from an appreciation because over here in the region, you don't feel a separation between a Qatari and an expat, a Emirati and a expat. Even driving down Dubai, all the billboards did say in UAE, everyone is Emirati during this time, which I found really nice, right? It's showing alliance and allegiance, which hats off to both countries in particular, but of course Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, all of them did a great job.
and getting back to your business, how has Sea Horizon had to adapt its business strategy in response, whether around your vessel positioning, client contracts, insurance? I mean, it's obviously affected everything.
Insurance has been interesting, of course. I mean, now insurance quotes last a lot less time. So you have passage insurance that goes through the strait, which only lasts 24 hours. Which comes complicated, right? You get the insurance, and if you can't pass through, you lose it, and then you have to apply again. So you're constantly spending money. Now, of course, We've only attempted to cross the strait once, and we never did. To be honest, it was too risky. We were actually it was a project that we were very happy about. When we first started working on it, it was to take some wind farm equipment to Taiwan for a client, and we were very confident in the project. But it was also during the time of the first ceasefire. I think it was like a 3 week or 1 month memorandum that they signed the very first time.
Mm.
But even with that ceasefire, what people will not say and what you don't see in the Western world, there was a lot of activity. We would be talking to the captain. He's like, there may be a ceasefire, but we're seeing a lot of interceptions above us. And, crew being comfortable because crew doesn't want to be on board. It's the same thing as COVID. Nobody wanted to be in operation because of the health factors, but is a little different, of course. Um, Preparation, readiness. So, I mean, for us, it was very important to think of all scenarios and to prepare further. It's actually given us a very big chance of adapting AI into our systems,
Yeah.
which I'm sure we'll touch on it later, but I'm a big supporter of AI. It's funny because when AI first became this big boom, I was always trying to think of ways that AI could work for us. When people, I feel like AI goes through phases. When you first get introduced to AI, you're like ChatGPT, and then type into ChatGPT, write me an email. But learning quickly that there's so much more to do with AI, and we actually developed recently in-house a whole AI chartering model, which can, based on the requirement, source vessels and do everything for the jobs in the region, and it recognizes the requirements of the oil companies and the energy companies in the region, whether it's Qatar Energy, Saudi Aramco, and ADNOC, which is our three customers.
So you've been able to integrate AI with your contingency planning, your diversification, like it's sort of expedited the use of the technology. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think for what I've so with the fact that for the first couple of months of this conflict, we were all told to stay home and businesses stopped, right? No ships are moving. You just have to make sure that everyone's safe. It gave us time to really implement this stuff. And I could sit here and tell and speak about this stuff all day because it's unbelievable what AI can do, right? I know this is more about the conflict in maritime, but one day we will definitely sit down and talk because I'm shocked. Like we can now have AI predict our preventive maintenance systems. It gives you the situation of the ship and it tells you, listen, if you don't overhaul this, then this is the ripple effect that could come, blah blah blah, and it actually puts it in front of you,
Mm.
right? For someone that's not very operational or technical, and you see that your crew database, your charting database, like, hey, you can get a notification that, the crew is over contracted. So usually we do 3 months on, 1 month off, 3 months on, 1 month off. So yeah, and I think my goal now is to implement as much of this stuff into the system because at the end of the day, it makes people's lives easier. It
Mm.
makes your job easier. So as to make your job as seamless as possible is the end goal, right?
So would you say the sort of war has allowed you some time to fully test AI, fully integrate it? Like it sort of feels like a bit of a down period.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. I agree because we're so used to not having downtime, right? No, I
Yeah.
mean, we're so being reactive. I mean, it's still apart from AI, like we're focusing on a lot of salvage opportunities to take us back to the roots of, like I told you earlier, my grandfather started in the shipping industry during the Iran-Iraq War, which is ironic because now I, 40, 50 years later, am stuck in another war, right? And what's funny is after the Iran-Iraq war is when the company really took off with a port project, which is ironic because in April we deliver our first port project. So it's another term of how history ends up repeating itself, but in the most odd ways possible. But yeah, no, I think adapting with AI, and I look at it like this, right? It's one day down the line, everybody is going to know how to use AI. So we might as well learn from now and be ahead of the curve, right? It, it's before you know it, it's everyone, the whole world will have different inputs, and anything you do has AI, and you can see even now new products come that implement AI, right?
Yeah, it's good to hear that you're integrating. Would you say that that is systemic across your industry? Do you feel your competitors have integrated? Like, are you seeing its effects in the market? I mean, war aside.
I'm seeing a lot of softwares developing AI that supports the business. I know a lot of ship management companies started implementing AI into their systems actually 2 years ago, right? And that was interesting. But I do see a lot more companies using it, and it's very simple. You could see some companies doing it as small as letting the AI take the minutes of meeting, which, it's a great entry point. But yes, I do see a lot of companies implementing it, and the beautiful thing about it is you can implement it in so many ways. But I do always say this, I say that AI is an incredible tool, but with great power comes great responsibility. And I don't think we should train people on AI. I think we should train the people, right? Yeah, you can give anyone AI tools, but if you don't train them how to use it, it can become the biggest nightmare ever. Because we had a situation where we had an employee that only used ChatGPT for his emails and would never read them. And it was one of the things I like to say in meetings is when you deal with our partners, romanticize your conversations. But I mean that in a sales form where make them feel comfortable, be there for them, help them through their pain points. And
Right, right. So,
I
seduce them
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in a sense.
Well, thank God I didn't say that because what he had written in the email was romanticize my email, and he sent it. And I remember reading it in my on the plane, and it was at the time it was very funny. Well, now it's very funny. At the time it was very stressful because I was landing to go meet that client, and um, I don't think he will. I think he was very uncomfortable until I explained to him the story. But yeah.
I remember we, on a previous conversation about leadership that we were having, you were talking about some of your risk mitigation planning and strategies, and you were working with, I believe, a Scottish firm on your
Yes.
preparedness plan. Can you tell us about that? Because I sort of find that an incredible story about, and you were making the point actually about how you had been very humbled in this process.
Oh yeah. The irony is, good thing you remind me. The irony is, the very first project we won for Qatar Energy was in 2022 in partnership with a Scottish company called Marex. Great group, very supportive and great partnership. The project was developing the emergency response plan for Qatar Energy ports, which is Ras Laffan and Said. And I remember sitting in the presentation run and internally, and one of the critical scenarios he had was if Iran bombs Ras Laffan. And I remember sitting there and I was like, "Can you delete that?" He said, "Why?" I'm like, "I think it's inappropriate. I don't think I'll ever see a scenario in my lifetime that will happen." He said, "Listen, the whole point of this is to be prepared for anything, whether a crazy scenario or a realistic scenario." So I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's do it. And never did I think, even when we presented this ERP to Qatar Energy, never did I think that this would be used. I said, okay, this is going to be something that is just going to be there. Better to have than not need, and need than not have, right? I'm like, we're fine. the moment that all this happened, I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna use it. And then you get anxiety because like, you hope it was a really good plan because now it's crucial. But yeah, the irony of it is I never thought that this ERP needed to be used. I think I won't take any credit for it because the Qatar Civil Defense has done an incredible job themselves. But I'm glad that we were able to support that, and it's a part of our history that, and I can always say this, that I thought it was the most craziest statement that he could have made in some of those critical scenarios, and here it is. We're living the reality.
Yeah, here it is. So looking ahead, where do you see this conflict heading, and what are the most likely scenarios that maritime operators in the Gulf should be preparing for over the next sort of 16 to 18 months?
That's a good question. The easy answer is I don't know, because every time I think I know, the situation changes. When this first started, I did take a wild guess that this would continue until October, mainly because I don't think that the U.S. elections or the midterms will be will be very positive for the current administration during a war. But then when you see stoppages, you see negotiations, it's a lot of question marks. And I don't, one thing I say always is the only way this conflict completely ends is if all with a deal, with a very similar deal that the Obama administration had. And that's the only way to, it's not going to end where they just stop fighting randomly. Okay, we stop fighting. It's going to be a way to end by bringing all sides together. And I actually believe that all countries will be in that deal. They have to be, right? For example, I mean, Iran and America can sign a deal, but how does that protect the other regional partners, right?
Mm,
How does that guarantee the safety of us in Doha, of people in UAE, people in Saudi, right? It needs to be a very broad framework deal. And that is the only way I see happen. When it first started, a lot of people said that it would end in it will be a regime change, it will be a whole different thing. And I don't think so. I think Iran is a very complicated country to implement a regime change or anything like that. But I think the way that this ends is through that, in my opinion. I mean, I'm no political expert,
yeah,
but
no, I
that's just
absolutely agree.
my opinion.
Yeah. And stepping back, what does this period of tension and disruption ultimately mean, do you think, for the future of the Gulf as a region? Not just, within the maritime energy hub, but for people living there, for, the road that they were on, the times that I've come out to see friends and family living in the region, whether that be Dubai, Doha, always great times. And do you see it continuing down that line, or do you see it changing completely?
I mean, you go into every situation after something like this with a certain degree of caution, right? But I don't see the Middle East slowing down even after this from the trajectory that they were going. It's the Middle East always bounces back in any conflict. Um, when COVID, we refer to COVID a lot today, but when COVID first happened, everyone said, okay, the UAE is finished.
Yeah,
If you remember, there was during right before COVID, there was actually an economic downturn in all of the Middle East. But after COVID, now, I think the UAE, when you're looking at the housing market, they spiked up like 60, 70%.
yeah,
Um, so I don't see any slowing down happening in the development of the region. I do see more caution that's going to be adapted, which is normal. Your preparations. Um, Thankfully, I think we have uh, the resources in the region and the tools and the leaders to really make the change and keep the trajectory going. I think one thing that we can all agree on is the leaders of this region are incredible, and they always find ways to help their people and develop their own country.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on both points. I've always been very impressed with the leadership and also the resilience. You reminded me that when we were speaking during the World Cup, how Qatar or what Qatar had to go through in order to deliver what it delivered. And we both, I think we were together at the World Cup, but an incredible
Yeah.
spectacle with what felt at the time like everyone was against them. So, yeah, I imagine that same resilience will outlast the current conflict and many more into the future.
I mean, speaking of the World Cup, now we can for sure say it. I do think now that the 2026 World Cup ended, the Qatar World Cup was still the best World Cup there was. You saw no conflict. I think we had a great time. The
Yeah, it was
games,
fantastic time.
you could go to 3 games a day. You could there was no crime, there was no pestering, there was no issues. I never thought in my life I would see in one place Souk Waqif at like 2 in the morning with like 6 countries just celebrating together and enjoying. It was amazing. And like you said, yeah, for up until I actually watched a documentary on Al Jazeera 2 days ago about the Qatar World Cup and how the whole world was against Qatar for the World Cup. And in my opinion, they pulled off the best World Cup there was. And it will be impossible to ever match it because you will never have another country that you can go and watch 3 straight games in one day.
Yeah, very, very unique. What was it like this time in terms of the support? I mean, I know the Qataris are football mad, but was there a sense of community watching the World Cup? I don't know how it affected the time zones.
The time zones were horrible.
Right.
You know, you watch the first game comes on at like 11 p.m., then 2 a.m., then 5 a.m. It was tough. But one thing I loved is and you know, even in this World Cup, I saw a lot of media, unfortunately, discrediting Qatar. I don't know if you saw the Qatar games, which I found was beautiful of the Qataris that were there in the stadium. And, you know, the media will say that, oh, it was Qatar paid for people to go support, fake fans to support. I'm like, your
Oh, really?
country
No, I didn't see that.
that you are from. Yeah, because I mean, Qatar does support Qatar Airways did a campaign where they they did pay for Qatari nationals to go watch the Qatari games, which any country could do if they really wanted to. I think there was about
Sounds like a
2,000
sweet
Qatari
deal.
nationals. Yeah, I would sign up if hotel and flight. Um, but yeah, so 2,000 Qataris, and it was beautiful because you get to see them in their traditional outfit in like San Francisco and cheering
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
on, and it was a real cultural moment. But yeah, I did see some newspaper articles about how Qatar is paying for fake fans, and I thought it was absolutely ridiculous because a country is paying for their people to go watch their team in the World Cup, which is this first ever World Cup that their country technically qualified for because last time they didn't have to qualify, right?
Yeah.
So it is and when they tied Switzerland, which I still think they should have won that game, which is amazing. And I got a lot of hatred from my Canadian friends because I was cheering for Qatar during the Canada and Qatar game, which unfortunately ended up poorly for Qatar. So for my passport, it was okay, but for where I live, it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the right team won in the end, didn't it? But
Yeah.
anyway, Daniel, listen, thank you so much for again for taking the time, and hopefully we can have you back on the pod as things develop. Good luck in Qatar. Well, I hope to see you in Qatar one of these days when normalcy
Please come.
returns.
We're waiting for you. We're waiting for you and hopefully see you soon. If not, I'm sure we'll find each other somewhere in the world. And thank you for having me. Always happy to discuss and let's see how this situation upholds. You know, hoping for the best, but prepared for the worst.
For sure. Thank you so much.